Hello, and welcome to Sideways. Can you hear the motorway? Reminded me this morning that years ago, when I had a different life and a different job, I used to sit in traffic jams on that motorway and look into these woods that I'm standing in now and wish that I were able to stand in the woods more often and able to get out of my car and away from the corporate rigour of sitting in traffic jams. And I did. In fact, at that time, I would have said that I felt jealous of what I couldn't have. And that's what we're talking about this week. Jealousy. We also talk about dogs, what Martin had for lunch, and we celebrate Martin's 10 years in sobriety. Jealousy. Good. I've got my levels right now.
Is that okay? Well, that sounds very professional. You know what you're doing? Just twiddle a knob and that's it.
That's it. That's exactly what sound engineers do, isn't it? Just twiddle a knob and it's all right, isn't it?
They have thousands of them, don't they?
You twiddled a knob to make it okay once, didn't you?
Anyway, on my own.
That's going to be really tough because when I come to edit it, I'm going to really agonise over whether to leave that in or not.
We can't leave that in, obviously. How's your Sunday been so far, anyway?
Yeah, it's been all right. I've had a lot of dog activity.
Have you been out walking?
A lot of dog walking. 2 lengthy dog walks. One with one dog. One with 2 dogs. I won't be having a third with 3 dogs. Just in case you're wondering.
I wasn't wondering. Unless you borrow one from someone, I suppose you could do that.
Yeah, I could borrow one of my sister's dogs, couldn't I?
Yeah, she's got loads. Are you jealous of the amount of dogs she's got?
That's no, I'm not. But that's a nice segue, isn't it?
It was a pretty blunt one, really. It wasn't very good, but I thought I'd try and use it, see how I got on.
Well, perhaps because it's Sunday, perhaps you don't want to waste time. You want to get straight into it.
Straight into the meat of it. Yeah. Well, I've had my Sunday lunch. My Sunday dinner. My Sunday. Well, it wasn't roast because it wasn't roast potatoes, but I'm feeling quite relaxed and serene.
What did you have for your lunch then?
Well, I had turkey thigh with boiled potatoes, spinach, carrots, gravy. Yeah, very nice. So I'm all sort of full.
Why did you have boiled potatoes and not roast potatoes?
I don't know. I just fancied boiled, really.
Here's a question for you.
Go on.
How do you feel about vinegar on a roast potato?
No.
Yeah.
Absolutely not.
Well, that's what I would have said, right? And I've had the scales have fallen from my eyes because vinegar on a roast potato is magnificent. Really?
Oh, I'll have to try that at some point, but it's not something I've ever considered. That would be the appropriate a compliment.
It's like a big thick chip. Yeah. Which, funny enough, is the way that people describe you sometimes.
Well, that's very nice of them. I don't know who they are, but I'm sure it's probably just you uses that phraseology. But
yeah, that's right. It is just me. Yeah, you're right.
It's just you. Yeah, but it sits neatly with me. I'm all right with that.
Yeah. All right. So, what do you want to talk about? I know you've already telegraphed it, haven't you?
I did telegraph it, but you've sort of tried to throw me off track somewhat. But yeah, I want to talk about jealousy. It is something that comes up in recovery, but there's a lot more aspects to it I just wanted to have a look at with you, if that's all right.
Yeah, go on.
I mean, I don't know about you, but I mean, most people have experienced it in their lives, haven't they?
Yeah, I don't imagine anyone has been free from jealousy their entire lives, have they?
No, I wouldn't have thought so. I mean, either you're jealous of someone else or sometimes you become the subject of jealousy, which obviously someone with my good looks, I get that all the time. So I've got used to it. But it doesn't sit neatly with everyone.
Fanciful whimsy, I see we're in the realm of today.
Well, whatever fanciful it is, it can be quite a destructive emotion, can't it?
Very much so.
But it sometimes, I don't know, it can come out of nowhere. And I'm sure that there must be ways of controlling or mitigating the effect. But so I'm sort of looking forward to your wisdom on this point later in the episode.
Okay, great.
But before we start, I passed 10 years of sobriety this week, which I was quite proud of myself for doing. A decade.
No, that's a great achievement. Well done.
Well, it sort of nearly passed me by, really. It's nice to do it to get to that point, but I'd taken me off the ball as the anniversaries seem to come around far too quickly now. But it's a sign of getting older. But it was nice. I went out to watch one of my favourite bands, 9 Below Zero,
Right.
which was great, and it showed that you can have fun in recovery. You don't have to have a drink to enjoy yourselves.
Absolutely.
I was looking forward to waking up the next day and going to work, which I could without a fear of a hangover or fear of having to ring in and saying I'm too poorly, or just not bothering to tell anyone at all, just disappear, which would have been one of my old habits.
Disappear to a travel lodge in Whitstable.
Wherever, mate. It would just disappear off and have a few days away, just to keep my head, well, not keep my head down, just to keep carry on drinking, basically. So none of that. So no, it was a lovely evening, and it was quite a nice way to celebrate. To be honest, I enjoyed it.
That's excellent. Very good. Yeah, it's a great achievement. So 10 years sober. So that's what you'd have been about 63 when you started in recovery then.
Hey, boom. It's strange because I feel like I've sort of dragged back that year, that decade that I lost in 2001 and to 2011. Feels like I've sort of recouped some of that now, and it's it's every day is still a bonus. But it's nice. It's nice to get to that particular milestone.
So do you reckon if I'd have asked you in 2011, will you see 2021, what would you have told me?
Absolutely not. No. No, well, I was at that point, just before I went into recovery, I was only given a few months to live anyway. So
yeah.
I'd have been lucky to have seen the following year. So, no, I wouldn't.
It's quite a story. It's quite a story, isn't it?
It's quite a change around. Quite a change around, which shows it can be done. But it's everyone has their own issues, don't they? I think perhaps mine was fairly straightforward in many ways.
Well, I don't know about that. You were 2-0 down in the 3rd minute of injury time, weren't you?
That's a good analogy. It's probably right, but it is possible to drag it back.
Well, as they say, it only takes a second to score a goal. So
exactly.
It only takes a second to make a decision to go into recovery, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. It does. Walking through that door on the first day. Yeah, absolutely right.
I think we underestimate, and I know we've spoken about this before, but I think we underestimate the power of that decision to walk through the door, whether it be into recovery, into rehab, into therapy, whatever it is. It doesn't take long to make that decision. Sure, there's a lot of hard work in front of you when you do it, but I think we underestimate the courage and the importance of that first step sometimes.
Yeah, I think you're probably right, but it is. I think most addicts will tell you by the time you get to that door, you've probably had so much. You're so pissed off with life generally that it's not a decision which is that difficult, really. I know I remember going to the recovery hub in Mason. I walked by the door a couple of times before I went in, but I knew I was going to have to do it. But it was just making that final step over the threshold.
Always worth remembering that anxiety only lives in the future.
Yeah, I know. We talked about that before, and it's a very wise phrase.
Well, that'll probably be the only wise phrase you get out of me today. Well,
I'm hoping there's going to be loads more because. But should we start? We'll start on jealousy, if you like, by way of definition.
Yeah, go on.
Actually, I'll throw in a couple of quotes. It's probably the easiest way to define it.
Dandy.
No, I haven't got none that are actually attributed, but the ones that I've found, which I thought were quite good. The first one is jealousy is when you count someone else's blessings instead of your own, which I thought sums it up quite well. Mm-hmm. And look at it from the other side. The jealous are troublesome to others, but a torment to themselves.
I like that one.
Does it come up very often? Jealousy? Do you have to deal with that aspect of people's emotions very often?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I don't think people would come with jealousy as a presenting issue, but I think it probably often is part of the story, So, I mean, sometimes it can be a symptom of a wider mental health issue. It could be something that's present in an anxiety disorder. You certainly see jealousy a lot in people who've got attachment issues. So it does crop up, but probably not as a standalone.
No, I suppose not. And I think that we have a fleeting relationship with jealousy. I think there are different types of jealousy, which I'll come on to later. But, we've all heard of the phrase, the green-eyed monster, haven't we? It gets used a lot. Normally when you're accusing someone else of being jealous of your achievement. I've heard it a lot anyway.
What, more than twice?
More than twice.
That is a lot. That is a lot.
Nearly I was thinking it's into double figures. Let's put it that way.
Crikey. You've heard it a lot, haven't you?
I have heard it a lot, yeah.
Actually, I don't know whether you're going to cover this or not, but I was just thinking about jealousy. Are you going to cover the difference between jealousy and envy?
I wasn't actually. It did come up on the research, but I had to cut down some. There's so much material that I sort of had to refine it to a certain degree. But if you would like to mention that, that would be good, because there is a definite difference, isn't there?
Yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about it. It's not really something I've thought about, but I suppose jealousy is kind of, I think about that as a fear of losing something that you've got, or you feel like you've got, something that is part of your world, Whereas envy, it seems to me, is more about a desire for something that isn't yours. Someone else has got something and you wish you had it.
I mean, certainly in terms of relationships and that sort of thing, that's definitely true. And I think, it's one of the 10 Commandments, isn't it? Coveting. You can't be going around coveting stuff.
It's best not to covet, isn't it?
It is.
Keep your coveting to a minimum. That's
keep it right down there. Keep it on the down low, otherwise you'd be going straight to hell. No one wants that. Yet jealousy does often crop up it comes up in recovery circles from time to time. I've seen it where people will mention they're sort of jealous of other people that can continue to drink properly or sensibly. That can be quite a powerful emotion where it can contest you somewhat. And I think also we find it is where people perhaps they come into recovery and they can be a bit jealous of those around them where the recovery is further down the line. That doesn't happen often, but I've known it. I've known that to crop up, and again that can be counterproductive if you don't check that a little bit quickly. I mean, the problem is, I suppose, because you've stunted your emotions during your active addiction, suddenly when you go into sobriety, they all come flooding forward, and they don't come forward in a lined up manner. They come through randomly, and you just suddenly got to cope with them, and often all at the same time. It's an absolute mishmash. So sometimes you can feel perhaps a bit of jealousy where there's no need to.
Do we ever need to feel jealous? I
think it's jealousy without cause,
without justification.
Yeah,
we'll come back to that, I think, probably.
Okay, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
But again, it is anything along those lines is quite dangerous because of the possibility of it leading to a relapse. But what does often crop up is a sort of a negative jealousy, if you like, or trying not to invoke jealousy in others, where we've had people come onto groups and they don't like to mention how far down the line they are or how well things are going for them at the moment for fear of upsetting other people or fear of invoking jealousy in other people. It's almost like you get we talked about it before, about you get a bit of a newfound humility. And I think that can be part of that. You go in and you like to think of others, all the people on the groups there as your equal, and you don't want to appear either overpowering or didactic.
Wow, that's not a word that's been used on these podcasts before.
Is it not? Is it not? Well,
so.
It's a nice word though, isn't it?
What do you think about that then? So if someone kind of is coy about I don't think coy's been used either. If someone is coy about the time they've spent already in recovery, in order to kind of protect the sensitivities of other members, do you think that's a good thing?
I think that I think there's a responsibility when you're going on to groups to sort of judge your audience, really. But I think it's nice when people are able to be quite proud of what they've achieved, because I think that helps themselves tremendously. And it's one of those new emotions when you go into recovery, because you haven't been proud of yourself for an awful long time. So I quite like the fact when people are happy to talk about the milestones they've reached. I always encourage people to do that regardless, because I think it is their own journey. And I don't think I think you're second guessing what other people are going to think. I'm not keen on that.
No, neither am I. I think it's patronising. Yeah, I do. Because if someone comes into recovery, you're new in recovery, and you hide from them the length of time you've been in recovery, aren't you just perpetuating the likelihood for their emotional fragility? I mean, they've got to face that, haven't they? If you're 2 days into recovery, you're going to meet people who are 2 years into recovery or 20 years in recovery. The sooner you face up to that, the better it is. And for the person who's being coy about the length of time they've been in recovery, there's a boundary issue there. It means you're taking responsibility for other people's emotions. So I mustn't say this because it might upset them. And as you said, you don't know that.
No, you don't.
Be honest about yourself, because in that sort of environment, the whole thing rests on the participants' ability to be honest, open, discuss their vulnerabilities. Surely it's better I tell you I've been in recovery for 2 years and you in recovery for a week say, crikey, that makes me feel like it's a tough journey ahead. I feel kind of jealous. That now you're into a really kind of productive conversation about what people are feeling in the group.
Yeah, it is something we discuss at that point. Yeah, because I think everyone should be, which is why we have certificates. We haven't had, we've tried to give out, haven't been able to do so during Zoom times, obviously, but during the COVID. But having just mementos for it. And if you go along to AA or to any other fellowships, you get little chips for your achievement. So it's quite overt, and it means that it should be celebrated.
Yeah. When
I'm doing my research, I've come across this. Apparently, there's different types of jealousy, which I hadn't really thought about before, and I'm sure that you've come across it. But again, in the research, nearly all of when they're blogging or discussing jealousy, it's nearly all about relationships.
Yeah,
it seems to be. It's obviously that must be one of the places where it manifests itself most in our lives.
Yeah, I reckon so. I mean, when I think about jealousy, I think that's the place you most obviously go to, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Again, we come across it in the groups where people have been in relationships with people that are sort of pathologically jealous, which seems to be one of the types of jealousy, which is the most extreme, I think. But when the person thinks they own his or her partner. And
something else going on there, isn't there?
There is. And you find when that jealousy is at such a level, they're constantly paying attention to their partner and posing series of questions about their behaviour and checking telephone calls and messages and checking who they've spent their time with and where they've been. It's surprising how often that crops up.
Well, as I was saying earlier, when someone's jealous to that extent, there's something else underlying it, probably some sort of an attachment issue. But those sorts of situations are a great example of how jealousy is really not about the other person at all. It's about you.
Yeah.
It's about your insecurity. It's nothing to do with what the other person's doing or not doing. It's really about how you can't feel confident in some sense that person that you're with will want to stay with you. That's about you. It's nothing to do with anyone else.
No, it isn't. But the impact it has on the other person is obviously very significant. That's the thing, isn't it?
Well, yeah, it is, because the most likely outcome is that you'll push them away. So the thing you fear most will be the thing that comes to pass.
We find it, or that we get people that, when you said push people away, we find it will push people into indulging in their drug of choice. It's an unhappy relationship, isn't it? And so they're obviously, to escape that, obviously physically, it can be really tricky sometimes. And so to emotionally escape it, relying on drink and drugs seems to do the trick in the short term, but obviously the long-term issues associated with that are quite dramatic. But there's sort of rational and irrational jealousy, which irrational was pretty much like the pathological jealousy, really, but it refers to a sense of fear and anger, which often results in depression for that person. And the rational jealousy was when there's jealousy, but there is a real and reasonable doubt in, for example, with a partner, and so they act to prevent the loss of their loved one, but in a more socially acceptable way. There's no humiliation or intimidation or threats or other inappropriate behaviour, but they change the way they behave jealousy of people at work seemed to come up quite a lot, where they were jealous that someone else would have been promoted above them, and that seems to crop up quite a lot. What I wanted to go on to ask you about is how do we overcome that? How do we shift ourselves to make jealousy less of an issue in our lives, or how do we deal with it if it is there? And how do we mitigate the effects of that? What do you reckon? Have you got any advice on that?
Well, okay, let me have a think. I suppose the first thing that it's worth doing when you feel jealous is, and it kind of might sound a bit obvious, but it's worth kind of working out what it's really about. What are you really? What's really going on? As I said earlier on, sometimes your jealousy will be, rational and justified, particularly if you feel like there's something going on with your partner and someone else. Then that's fair enough, and obviously there's action that you can take in that situation. But there'll be other situations where there's no evidence or there's no justification for your feelings. And then it's in those situations that you really need to be asking yourself, what is going on in me that is making me feel like this? One of the other things that is useful to do, I guess it's probably easier to do with the help of someone else, i.e. a therapist. But quite often when people feel jealousy, and they tend to be quite jealous, it's worth asking someone, what's the earliest memory you have of feeling like this? Because quite frequently you'll find that people's jealous feelings are triggered by situations, but they're kind of coming from somewhere way back where there was perhaps something happened in their lives, or there was some sort of situation that created these feelings of jealousy, or feelings where they were being overlooked or not really being valued. So I think it's always worth doing some work to try and identify what's this all about, what's happening here, and which kind of brings me to the second thing, which is the importance of talking about it. The problem with feelings of jealousy is if you never say anything to anyone about it, not necessarily the object of your jealousy, but if you don't talk to anyone about it, like so many other difficult emotional states, you just end up living in this echo chamber of your own negative thinking. And when you talk through your jealous feelings with someone, it's not to get them to stop you feeling jealous or say, don't be silly, you don't need to feel like that. But it's worth sometimes listening to someone else's perspective on what you're feeling. Even if it doesn't make you stop feeling jealous, it can perhaps calm down or mitigate to some degree the worst excesses of those feelings. With feelings of jealousy, it's worth thinking about what you do have rather than what you fear losing or what you think like you're going to get rid of, which would have been a nice segue for you to go into the gratitude list.
I was hoping you weren't going to say that, because I've got that written down. So I was going to say, what about? And I was going to lead on to the gratitude, but you've sort of jumped in there. Well, let's
forget I ever said that, shall we?
Okay. We'll try and make it seamless in a minute.
Yeah.
Well, act surprised when you say
it. It's worth thinking about your own value. So jealousy, feelings of jealousy make us feel in some way as if we're shortchanged or going to lose something, or we're less than. So it's worth thinking about ways in which you do feel valuable in yourself. Patience is good in terms of jealousy. Sometimes, well, not sometimes, always, feelings of jealousy will dissipate over time. But as we've discussed before, most of us are impatient when we're feeling an emotion that we're uncomfortable with,
that we don't like. Yeah, certainly impatience is rampant amongst us addicts, that's for sure. But what about those people, and we've all come across them, that seem to go out of their way to intentionally try and make other people jealous? And I think, again, we often slag off social media, but I think it's used very well in these circumstances, where people put stuff onto social media to almost to make other people feel jealous, their new car or their new house or whatever. It's not. Sometimes you get the feeling that they're not just doing it because they're doing it for their own gratitude. They almost want to invoke jealousy in others, which is quite a nasty thing to do, really. I mean, I've known people in a relationship it wasn't mine, but I remember witnessing it, where one of the partners would deliberately try and make the other person jealous by flirting with someone or talking to the opposite sex, or even talking about their ex, and you could see it was, I remember it was at a, I'm not going to mention who they were, but I remember it was at a dinner table and it was excruciatingly embarrassing.
In that sort of situation, if that's going on in your relationship, then you need to have a conversation with your partner, don't you? Because if you're in a situation with your partner where you feel your partner is constantly saying things to you that are designed to goad you or make you jealous or whatever, there needs to be a conversation about why that's going on and the importance of stopping it. And if it doesn't stop, then that's the point at which you have to decide where your boundary is.
Mm.
If you're with someone who's constantly trying to make you jealous by talking about ex-partners or flirting with other people, and it makes you serially uncomfortable, at some point you have to ask yourself why you're in that relationship, don't you?
You do. It's one
of the difficult things about situations like that, where people are behaving in a way in order to try and get some sort of emotional reaction from us, is that we quite often spend a lot of time and expend a lot of energy trying to make them stop doing what they're doing, which is the part of the equation we can't control. You can't control what someone else does, but you can control the other part of the equation, which is what you do. And if you get to a point in a relationship where you're sick and tired of the way your partner is treating you, get out of the relationship.
Yeah, quite. Easier said than done, but yeah, I know what you're saying.
Well, I mean, sometimes it's easier said than done. And obviously people sometimes are in complex situations where they've got children and their financial affairs are tied together. But what's the alternative? To tolerate that sort of toxic behaviour from someone for the rest of your life? No.
Well, I know some people that have and do that, but you're right. The rational way to behave and to deal with that level of, it's almost abuse, isn't it? In the relationship,
it is abusive.
Is to walk away from it.
It is abusive. Obviously, the first thing to do is to address it with your partner if you can. What I'm saying is that if you try and address that sort of behaviour where someone's trying to make you jealous and it doesn't have any effect, at some point you're going to have to decide what you want to do with that. Are you going to tolerate it permanently, or are you going to walk away?
I suppose one of the best, we're looking at all the different ways of dealing with jealousy. Probably one of the better ones is to sort of be grateful for what you currently have.
Oh, that's a nice little segue. Yeah, I hadn't considered that. What a good idea.
I think so. Yeah, I don't know where that came from.
I think it's your go to go first this week.
Well, I was obviously grateful for reaching my 10 years sobriety. That was my very grateful as a sort of a one-off this week, if you like. But I was grateful to be being given a ticket to go to 9 Below Zero as well. But it's unfortunate because I got it from Jez, our old mate Jez, who listens to this. Mm-hmm. He gave me the ticket, but it wasn't as a gift. It's because he had COVID and couldn't go.
Oh.
So bless his heart. I'm not grateful for him having COVID. I'm grateful for the ticket, but it takes the edge off it, doesn't it, really? When I got it really
not for you,
by default. Really.
He was probably at home feeling jealous about the fact that you'd gone to 9 Below Zero.
Exactly, yeah.
So if you were, Jez, and you're listening to this, I'd suggest a bit of mindfulness.
I did speak to him on a WhatsApp video call to see how he was. And he was, I think he's getting better. It's laid him a little bit low, the old COVID, but he's double jabbed and everything. But he's still got the COVID. It's laying him a bit low, but soon, soon, Jess, and thanks for the ticket, mate.
Did you do a WhatsApp video message from the venue?
No, that would have been a bit heartless, wouldn't it?
It would have been funny, though.
So what about yourself? What were you grateful for? What have you been grateful for this week or generally?
I'll tell you what I feel grateful for this week. And this might seem an odd thing to be grateful for this week because there hasn't been any, but I feel grateful for snow this week.
Where did you get that one from? Because that's not even...
I'll tell you. Firstly, because it got quite cold this week, didn't it? And I'm thinking, oh, that's good. Winter's on the way. I like a bit of cold weather. I much prefer the cold weather to hot weather. You can put a jumper on, but you can't take your skin off, can you?
True.
And I was on a walk up on at White Horse Country Park, which you may or may not know. If you do know it, you'll have probably been up there with inappropriate footwear, like you usually are when you go walking. But I was talking to my children about how we went up there once. I think it was last year. My son's girlfriend suggested going up there for a walk in the snow. I thought it'd be really pretty up there. And usually I absolutely adore the snow. The dogs love the snow, so it's great fun to be out with them in that. But we went up there, and I'll tell you what, it's cold at the best of times up there, but I can say without fear of contradiction, it was the coldest I've ever been in my life. And
really?
And as beautiful as it was absolutely horrendously cold, but it hasn't dulled my enthusiasm for snow. So I'm anxiously waiting for some snow. These days, we don't get it as much as we used to.
No, we don't.
But so apart from enjoying it in the present, I also have lots of very happy memories of snow. I think we must have spoken about this before, actually, in some respect, because do you remember those snowball fights we used to have along your road when you were growing up?
I do, yeah. There used to be, about 20 aside, and the air was full of snowballs.
It was magnificent. I mean, I can almost I can almost smell those evenings now.
Yeah.
So so something like that kind of gives you pleasure when you experience it now, but it also gives you a kind of triggered throwback to, your childhood is very evocative. So even though there isn't any, bring it on.
Grateful for it.
Snow.
Yeah, I think most people you speak to that are expats and they've moved away from the UK, they miss the seasons. They miss the changing of the seasons because they're very defined in England, in the UK, aren't they? So, you will, although they're becoming more blurred recently over the recent years, there's still a distinct difference. And so, it's a lot of people are grateful when they come back to have that, to go through that, the seasonal change.
Your mum's an expat.
That was her name. You're right. Exactly. Yes. And no longer with us. I think that's I'd never really thought of it like that, but I'm sure she would have found that funny.
Your mum is my favourite expat.
Oh, bless you. Thank you. Yeah. And mine.
Yeah, well, that's not surprising, is it?
We're crack on, shall we? On to the Spotify search for this week?
Yeah. Jealous Guy.
What about jealousy? What about jealousy?
Guy?
Jealous Guy. That was the first one that came up. And I would have put that on the original John Lennon song I quite like, but it's strange because I sort of heard the Roxy Music version first. It's really weird. I hadn't really come across the John Lennon one until I heard the cover version by Roxy Music, and I really liked it and realised found out it was a cover version. And I preferred the Roxy Music one, bizarrely.
Yeah, I would have certainly heard the Roxy Music one first, I think.
Yeah, so I'm not putting that on anyway, but it did. That was the first one that sprang to mind. Yeah. There's a track called Jealous of the Moon, which I quite liked, by a band called Nickel Creek.
Nickel Creek,
which I quite like the name of the band.
Yeah.
There was a track called No Jealousy by a Japanese band called Fuck on the Beach. They're very noisy, very grungy, awfully noisy.
Yeah, you would like them, wouldn't you?
But what I came across a track that I played it. But it's when I was searching through, I played it. I thought this is just lovely, and it was a track called "Hey Jealousy" by the Gin Blossoms.
Oh, I know
and
it.
It's just lovely, isn't it?
Is that what you put on the list?
Yeah, I know it's an American rock band. I know you, but it doesn't. It's,
that apart from the Tibetan Singing Bowls is probably the first track you've put on that I've enjoyed.
Well, I went onto YouTube to have a look at that particular track by the Gin Blossoms, and it's been viewed nearly 27 million times. So it shows how popular that particular track is, and them as a band.
Yeah, that's a great album. Actually, I can't remember what it's called. I've got it somewhere. It probably isn't in the right sleeve though.
Well, they're probably in their overlapping Venn diagram then, the Gin Blossoms. But I'm a new convert.
They would be firmly in there then. Excellent. So,
okay.
Are we done?
We are done, mate. Yeah.
I'll see you next time.
Good work, mate. Speak to you later.
Laters.
Bye.
Bye. Sideways was created by Graham Landy and Martin Pankhurst. If you want to read more about our work or sort through the extensive archive of past episodes, just visit grahamlandywellbeing.co.uk/sideways-podcast. You can follow us on Twitter or Facebook or Instagram at Sideways Podcast, and you can email us if you have a question or if there's something you'd like us to cover. But most of all, we want to tell you how grateful we are that you come and listen, and we ask that if you've enjoyed what you've heard, that you spread the word. And we'll see you next week.